The galactic concordat sprawled across 17 major star systems and countless minor ones, a massive political entity governed by tradition, power, and the careful balance of influence among its founding members. At its core stood the Xylar Empire, with its rigid hierarchy and vast military fleets, and the Volanite Federation, whose technological prowess and economic dominance had shaped galactic policy for millennia. Around them orbited lesser powers, the Mekthar Collective, the Sinal Worlds, the Arisian Dominion, all vying for influence within the established order. Earth had joined this complex political structure only 73 years ago, introduced to the galactic community after Volanite scouts detected humanity's first quantum resonance experiments. The invitation had been extended with grand pronouncements about welcoming new siblings to the cosmic family, and humanity had eagerly accepted, dazzled by the technological wonders and possibilities of interstellar civilization. In the decades since, humans had proven themselves industrious, adaptable, and incredibly useful. Their unique approach to mathematics, particularly in complex systems theory, had solved computational problems that had stymied galactic engineers for centuries. Their intuitive understanding of network architecture had streamlined communications protocols across parsecs. And most importantly, their willingness to work in positions others considered beneath their station had made them indispensable to the day-to-day operations of galactic infrastructure. Yet despite this, Earth remained firmly at the periphery of galactic politics, invited to councils but rarely consulted, included in trade agreements, but always on terms favorable to the established powers. Humans were valued for their abilities, but dismissed as newcomers with much to learn about the sophisticated galaxy they had joined. The maintenance crews from Earth have fixed another cascade failure in the Cygnus hub, announced Sub-Administrator Vexlor to the Xylar Operations Council. Efficiency levels are back to 97%. High Commander Satek barely looked up from the holographic display of fleet deployments. Good. That's what we pay them for, isn't it? Technical work suits their limited perspective. Across the chamber, Volanite Trade Minister Elia Saren nodded in agreement, her crystalline features catching the light. The humans have their uses. Their algorithms have increased profitability in the Outer Rim exchanges by 12% this cycle alone. And they seem quite satisfied with the technological scraps we've allowed them, added Sciences Overseer Krell. Their gratitude for quantum field modulators, technology we've had for 8 centuries, is almost embarrassing. What none of them acknowledged, what few in the Concordat truly understood, was how deeply their civilization had come to depend on human innovation. The Interstellar Energy Coordination Network that powered everything from planetary shields to space elevators ran on proprietary Earth algorithms that no non-human engineer fully comprehended. The macroeconomic forecast system that stabilized galactic markets relied on human-designed chaos prediction models. The instantaneous jump synchronization protocol that made interstellar travel safe and reliable had been built and was maintained almost exclusively by Earth technicians. These dependencies remained hidden behind bureaucratic structures that deliberately obscured human contributions, classified as technical implementations rather than fundamental innovations. When reports mentioning Earth's critical role reached higher levels, they were routinely filed away, their implications deliberately ignored by those who preferred the established narrative of humanity as the grateful junior partner. In the sealed council chamber on Xylar Prime, 12 figures gathered around a table of ancient living wood, the leaders of the galaxy's most powerful factions meeting in a session so secret that even its existence was denied in official records. "The Earth's situation requires our attention," began Supreme Chancellor Drav of the Xylar Empire, his voice carrying the weight of 4 centuries of political cunning. "Our analysts project their technological development rate will exceed the Volanite trajectory within 150 years if left unchecked. This is unacceptable." Trade Minister Saren's crystalline features remained impassive, but her voice carried a hint of concern. Their economic growth already exceeds projections by 17%. Several of their corporations are positioning themselves to compete directly with established Concordat interests. More troubling, interjected Security Director Morix of the Sentinel Worlds, is their military potential. While their current forces are negligible, their strategic thinking is unpredictable, dangerous even. The ancient Mechthar representative, speaking through a translation field, added, they reproduce and adapt quickly. They lack proper respect for established hierarchies. They ask too many questions. Then we are agreed. Chancellor Drav concluded. The Earth problem must be managed. Project Horizon will proceed. Holographic displays activated around the chamber, revealing detailed plans that had been in development for years. The Horizon Protocol outlined a comprehensive strategy to permanently limit Earth's development while maximizing its utility to the Concordat. Technological constraints would be implemented through carefully designed trade agreements, ensuring humans received only obsolete or limited technologies while their innovations were harvested. Economic dependencies would be created through seemingly beneficial investment schemes that would ultimately siphon wealth from Earth's economy while creating structural reliance on Concordat systems. Military containment would be achieved by gradually positioning Earth as a buffer zone between the Xylar and a fabricated threat from the galactic rim, allowing both exploitation of Earth's resources and, if necessary, sacrifice of its territories in any actual conflict. Most insidiously, a program labeled Genetic Stabilization Initiative outlined plans to introduce subtle genetic limiters into the human population through medical assistance programs, ensuring that after several generations, humanity's cognitive potential would be permanently capped at levels non-threatening to Concordat dominance. Implementation begins immediately, Chancellor Drav declared. The first phase should be complete within 5 standard years. Earth will never know what might have been. The sealed council adjourned, confident in their ability to shape the galaxy's future as they had for thousands of years, blind to the possibility that their carefully laid plans might unravel. On Earth, in a facility buried half a kilometer beneath the North American Rocky Mountains, a small team of analysts reviewed data streams from across the galaxy. The Predictive Analysis Unit, PU, had been established shortly after Earth joined the Concordat, ostensibly to help humanity understand its new galactic partners. In reality, it had evolved into something between an intelligence agency and a strategic think tank, monitoring patterns that might indicate threats to Earth's interests. Something's not right with the new trade proposal, said analyst Kaido Yamamoto, highlighting sections of the document on the holographic display. The technology transfer clauses have been restricted 3 times in the last year alone, each time with a different justification. Director Sophia Chun nodded, her expression grave. And these new restrictions align perfectly with our breakthroughs in quantum entanglement communications, almost as if they knew exactly what to block. It's the same with the military cooperation framework, added strategic analyst Marcus Washington. Every time we develop a new defensive capability, the cooperation parameters shift to exclude it. The pattern is becoming clear, Director Chin concluded. We're being managed, contained. The question is, how comprehensive is this strategy, and who authorized it? What followed was the most ambitious intelligence operation in human history, using maintenance access to critical Concordat systems. Access granted because no one suspected the simple technicians of ulterior motives, PU. Operatives carefully mapped vulnerabilities in the highest security networks of the galactic powers. The breakthrough came when senior analyst Elena Rodriguez discovered that the quantum encryption protocols used by the SEAL Council had been built on basic architecture designed by humans 15 years earlier. The protocols had been modified and strengthened, but the underlying structural flaw remained, a flaw known only to the original Earth designers. 3 months of careful work followed, with the infiltration team making microscopic adjustments to security systems across multiple networks, creating a path through defenses believed impenetrable. When finally executed, the data extraction occurred in less than 7 minutes. A surgical strike that obtained every file related to Horizon Protocol before withdrawing without triggering a single alert. The contents of those files shattered all illusions about humanity's place in the galaxy. Project Horizon isn't just a containment strategy. Director Chun told the emergency meeting of Aegis Command, Earth's highest and most secret authority, comprising military, intelligence, scientific, and political leaders. It's a comprehensive plan for permanent subjugation. The evidence was projected onto screens around the secure conference room. Detailed timetables, resource allocation plans, genetic engineering specifications, and communications between Concordat leaders discussing the human problem with casual contempt. These bastards, General, Maria Alvarez snarled, slamming her fist on the table. While we've been helping maintain their precious systems, they've been planning to turn us into their permanent servants, or worse. Dr. James Okonkwo, head of Earth Scientific Council, studied the genetic modification plans with horror. This would be irreversible after 3 generations. Our children's children would never reach their full potential and would never even know what had been taken from them. We need to strike now, urged Admiral Thomas Hayes. We have surprise on our side. We could target their key military installations, demand recognition, and be obliterated, interrupted Kaido Yamamoto. Even with surprise, we lack the firepower to challenge the combined might of the Concordat. Any military action would be suicide. Diplomatic protests are equally futile, added political liaison Diana Becky. They control all the forums where such concerns could be raised, and they've been preparing justifications for their actions for years. We'd be dismissed as paranoid newcomers, or, worse, deemed a threat requiring immediate intervention. Silence fell over the room as the grim reality sank in. Earth faced an existential threat from adversaries so powerful and entrenched that conventional responses seemed hopeless. It was Elena Rodriguez who finally spoke, her voice quiet but steady. There's another option. Not resistance, not protest, but severance. Complete, absolute severance. All eyes turned to her as she activated her own presentation. I call it protocol, severance. Instead of fighting the Concordat, we simply disconnect. We withdraw every human working on their systems, disable every algorithm we've provided, remove every component only we can produce. We don't attack, we just leave and take all our contributions with us. That would be economic suicide, objective financial director way. Our economy is deeply integrated with the Concordats. The disruption would be severe but survivable for us, Rodriguez countered. We've modeled this extensively. Earth is largely self-sufficient in essentials, and we've stockpiled critical off-world resources. We would face a difficult transition, yes, but the Concordat would face collapse. Explain, demanded General Alvarez. Rodriguez highlighted sections of her analysis. They've become dependent on us in ways they don't even recognize. The ICN energy grid, it relies on human design stability algorithms that no non-human engineer fully understands. The interstellar jump network? The synchronization modules are manufactured exclusively on Earth, with components that can't be replicated elsewhere. The economic forecast system, the logistics management platforms, the communication protocols, all run on our code, our hardware, maintained by our people. If we withdrew all of that simultaneously, Dr. Okonkwo said slowly, understanding dawning, their entire infrastructure would not explode, Rodriguez clarified. We're not monsters, but would degrade, fail, becoming increasingly unstable and eventually unusable. They've built their systems assuming our continued cooperation. Without it, those systems will simply stop working correctly. And meanwhile, we isolate ourselves completely, asked Admiral Hayes. Cut off all contact. Completely, confirmed Rodriguez. We withdraw to our solar system, activate the Darkshield defense grid we've been secretly building, and simply disappear from galactic politics. Let them deal with the consequences of their betrayal. Debate raged for hours, with arguments for military action, diplomatic appeals, and partial measures all considered and rejected. In the end, Aegis Command voted 11-2 to implement protocol, severance. The decision was painful, abandoning decades of interstellar engagement, accepting isolation from the wider galaxy. But the alternative was eventual enslavement. This isn't revenge, Director Chen emphasized as the final plans were drawn up. This is survival, self-determination, freedom to choose our own path without manipulation or constraint. May our children forgive us for the opportunities they'll never know, murmured Dr. Okonkwo. And may the Concordat learn what happens when you mistake cooperation for submission, added General Alvarez grimly. Protocol. Severance was set for implementation in exactly 30 days. 0 hour was calibrated to Galactic Standard Time, synchronized across 17 major star systems and thousands of human operatives. At precisely 3:27 and 14 seconds Gulf Standard Time, Protocol severance began on the massive Cygnus energy hub that powered a quarter of Xylar space. Chief Engineer Sarah Donovan and her team of 17 human technicians simultaneously triggered hidden commands in the system's core architecture. The commands didn't destroy anything. That would have been an act of war. Instead, they simply removed the error correction algorithms that humans had built into the system years ago, algorithms that compensated for inherent instabilities in the Xylar design. Immediately, efficiency dropped to 68%. Within an hour, as cascading microfailures began accumulating without the human design corrections, it would fall below 40%. Within a day, the entire network would require emergency shutdown to prevent catastrophic overloads. As alarms began blaring, Donovan and her team calmly packed their personal belongings, wiped their workstations of all data, and proceeded to their emergency evacuation shuttle, one of hundreds pre-positioned throughout Concordat space months earlier. By the time Xylar Security realized what was happening, they were already gone, their shuttle jumping to pre-calculated coordinates outside normal shipping lanes. Similar scenes played out across galactic space. At the Central Economic Forum on Volanite Prime, senior analyst Raj Patel initiated a complete purge of all human-design predictive models from the macroeconomic forecast system. The massive AI that had guided galactic markets for decades suddenly found itself operating on outdated baseline code, its sophisticated predictive capabilities erased. Market projections instantly became unreliable, triggering automatic trading halts and security protocols. As financial chaos erupted, Patel and 23 other human analysts calmly walked to their waiting transport. At jump stations throughout the galaxy, human maintenance crews simultaneously removed or disabled critical synchronization components, small devices manufactured exclusively on Earth that ensured the safety of instantaneous interstellar travel. Without them, jump technology didn't fail completely, but error rates increased from 1 in a billion to 1 in 1,000, making every jump a potentially lethal gamble. Logistics management systems began producing nonsensical routing instructions. Communication networks suffered increasing lag and packet loss. Environmental control systems in space habitats began reporting false readings. Security protocols began triggering false alarms or failing to trigger on actual threats. In each case, the pattern was the same. No direct attack, no destruction, simply the removal of human contributions and the controlled failure of systems that had come to depend on them. And in each case, human personnel vanished before the full effects became apparent, departing in pre-positioned vessels that immediately went dark to all tracking systems. Throughout Concordat space, confusion reigned. Initial reports were treated as isolated incidents, technical glitches to be resolved by local authorities. But as the pattern of failures expanded and accelerated, alarming reports began reaching higher levels of government. "What do you mean? All human personnel are missing," demanded Sub-Administrator Vexlor, now frantically trying to manage the cascading energy crisis in the Cygnus sector. "Find them." "That's just it, sir," replied his security chief. "They're gone. All of them. Not just here. Reports are coming in from across Concordat space. Human workers everywhere have simply left." On Xylar Prime, an emergency session of the High Council attempted to make sense of the rapidly deteriorating situation. Reports flooded in from every sector. Critical systems failing, human workers vanished, emergency measures proving ineffective. This is clearly a coordinated attack, declared High Commander Tsatek. Deploy the fleet to Earth immediately. We will crush this rebellion before it gains momentum. But the deployment order immediately ran into reality. With jump synchronization compromised, moving large military forces quickly had become dangerous. The few ships that attempted emergency jumps reported navigation errors of up to 7%, enough to put them light years off course or, worse, materialize partially inside solid matter. The markets are in free fall, reported Trade Minister Sarin, her usual composure shattered. The forecast system is generating gibberish, and automated trading protocols are executing contradictory orders. We've had to suspend all exchange operations. Can't you restore the previous algorithms? Demanded Chancellor Draft. The humans didn't just stop maintaining them. They completely purged them from our systems, Sarin replied. We're trying to reconstruct the models, but the underlying mathematics is complex. Our analysts estimate 6 months to develop even a rudimentary replacement. As the crisis unfolded, initial confusion gave way to growing comprehension. This wasn't a prelude to attack. It was something far more sophisticated. Humans weren't attempting to destroy the Concordat. They were simply withdrawing their contributions to it, revealing in their absence just how dependent the galactic civilization had become on the species it had planned to subjugate. 26 hours into the crisis, as systems continued to degrade across Concordat space, a brief, encrypted message was broadcast simultaneously to every major government and media outlet in the galaxy. The encryption used a protocol so advanced that only the highest security systems could decode it, ensuring that the message would reach only those with the authority to understand its significance. The decoded message was simple. Cooperation has ended. All links severed. Do not seek us out. It was signed with a single symbol, a stylized Earth surrounded by a broken chain. After that, silence. All official channels from Earth went dark. Attempts to contact human representatives received no response. Probes sent toward the Sol system found nothing. The entire region appeared empty, as if Earth and its colonies had simply ceased to exist. In truth, they were still there, protected by the Dark Shield, a massive cloaking and defense system that had been built in secret over decades, designed specifically to hide an entire solar system from detection. But to the galaxy at large, humanity had effectively vanished, leaving behind only the growing chaos of their absence. The days following Protocol, Severance saw the Concordat descend into unprecedented crisis. The initial failures, significant as they were, proved merely the beginning as the interconnected nature of galactic systems turned individual breakdowns into a comprehensive disaster. With the energy grid operating at reduced efficiency, power shortages became commonplace across cyberspace. Critical systems were prioritized, but even they suffered intermittent failures. Civilian sectors faced rolling blackouts, industrial production plummeted, and outlying colonies reported complete grid collapse. The economic impact proved even more devastating. Without reliable forecasting, markets panicked. The value of major corporations fluctuated wildly, with several financial giants collapsing entirely as algorithms designed to protect investments instead accelerated their decline. Credit systems froze as trust in financial institutions evaporated, bringing trade to a virtual standstill. The transportation network, already compromised by jump synchronization failures, degraded further as logistics systems produced increasingly erratic routing instructions. Supply chains fractured, leaving planets and stations short of critical resources. Military forces, attempting to respond to the crisis, found themselves stranded in wrong locations or unable to coordinate effectively as communication systems suffered increasing degradation. How could this happen? Chancellor Drav demanded in a closed emergency session 3 days into the crisis. How could we become so dependent on humans without realizing it? Compartmentalization, admitted Science's overseer Krell reluctantly. We delegated technical implementation to them while maintaining theoretical oversight. But over time, their implementations became increasingly sophisticated, incorporating elements our own engineers didn't fully understand but accepted because they worked efficiently. In essence, added an RECN representative with unusual frankness, we became arrogant. We assumed our supervision was meaningful when in fact we were increasingly approving systems whose fundamental operations were beyond our comprehension. Can we rebuild these systems ourselves? Asked Security Director Morix. The silence that followed provided a more eloquent answer than words could have. We need to find them, Chancellor Drav finally declared. Whatever it takes, whatever concessions must be made, we need the humans back. But finding Earth proved impossible. The few exploration vessels that could be safely dispatched reported only empty space where the Sol system should have been. More sophisticated sensor arrays detected strange energy patterns that might indicate advanced cloaking technology, but nothing concrete enough to penetrate whatever defenses Earth had erected. Communications directed toward Earth's last known location went unanswered. Former human trading partners professed ignorance about Earth's plans or whereabouts. The humans had simply removed themselves from galactic affairs as completely as they had removed their technologies from Concordat systems. As weeks turned to months, the initial crisis evolved into a new, harsh reality. The Concordat didn't collapse entirely. Its civilization was too ancient and resilient for that, but it was fundamentally altered. Systems were rebuilt with painstaking effort, but they operated at fractions of their former efficiency. Economies stabilized at much lower levels of productivity. Transportation networks were reconfigured to work with less sophisticated coordination. Most significantly, the political order began to shift. The Xylar Empire and Volanite Federation, once unquestioned in their dominance, found their power diminished by the disproportionate impact the crisis had on their complex infrastructures. Smaller powers, less dependent on advanced systems, weathered the storm more effectively and began asserting greater independence. The Horizon Protocol, once the secret plan to contain Earth, became a bitter joke among those aware of its existence, a monument to hubris now buried in secure archives, never to be acknowledged publicly. Its architects, once confident in their ability to manage galactic affairs, now struggled simply to maintain basic functions of governance. One standard year after Protocol, Severance, the Concordat had been transformed. The unified political entity that had dominated the galaxy for millennia had fractured into a looser association of increasingly independent powers. Trade continued, diplomacy functioned, but the centralized authority that had defined galactic civilization was gone, perhaps forever. In its place emerged a more cautious, less hierarchical order, one painfully aware of its vulnerabilities and the dangers of underestimating others. The absence of Earth had become a defining feature of this new galaxy, a constant reminder embedded in technologies that worked less efficiently, economies that grew more slowly, and political relationships rebalanced by shared trauma. More subtly, the Earth lesson, as it came to be known in diplomatic circles, introduced something new to Concordat thinking: humility. The ancient powers that had plotted to permanently subordinate a species they considered inferior had instead been brought low by that very species, not through violence or confrontation, but simply by the withdrawal of unacknowledged contributions. The lesson was reinforced by the persistent fear that Earth might one day return, not as the cooperative partner it had once been, but as something else entirely. What might humans be developing in their isolation? What technologies, what capabilities might they be perfecting, free from Concordat constraints? The possibility haunted strategic planners and political leaders, influencing decisions across a galaxy that had learned the hard way about the dangers of arrogance. Earth itself remained silent, hidden behind its impenetrable dark shield. Within that protective barrier, humanity pursued its own destiny, developing technologies and societies shaped by their own values rather than the manipulative guidance of the Concordat. The decision to implement protocol severance had not been without cost. Cutting ties with the galaxy meant abandoning opportunities for exchange and discovery that might have enriched human civilization. But it had purchased something more valuable: freedom to determine their own future, unfettered by the schemes of those who had seen them as tools rather than partners. Occasionally, sensitive instruments on the edge of former Concordat space detected unusual energy signatures that might have been human vessels operating beyond the Darkshield's range. Brief, fleeting evidence that Earth was still active, still observing. But no official contact was ever established, no reconnection ever attempted. The line had been cut, completely and permanently. The galaxy's plans for Earth had ended the moment humans recognized them for what they were. And in their place, a new galactic order had emerged, shaped by the profound absence of those who had once been dismissed as minor players in a game they were never meant to win. In the ancient chamber on Xylar Prime, where the Sealed Council had once confidently planned the subjugation of Earth, a much-diminished gathering of leaders now met regularly to manage the continuing challenges of the post-Severance era. The Livingwood Table, once a symbol of unchanging tradition, had darkened and contracted, responding to the altered fortunes of those gathered around it. The reconstruction of the Cygnus Energy Network is proceeding, reported the Xylar representative, but efficiency remains at 63% of pre-severance levels. The Arisian Dominion has withdrawn from the trade harmonization protocols, added another. They claim the benefits no longer justify the constraints. Such reports had become routine, a steady chronicle of diminished capabilities and fraying alliances. What remained unspoken, but understood by all, was that these difficulties stemmed from a single source: the absence of Earth and its contributions. After the formal business concluded, Chancellor Drav, older now, the crisis having accelerated even his long-lived species aging, remained alone in the chamber, contemplating the subtle but unmistakable decline of the civilization he had spent centuries helping to govern. "We never understood what we had," he murmured to the empty room, "until they showed us by taking it away." It was, perhaps, the epitaph for an age, a recognition that arrived too late to prevent the fall, but perhaps in time to guide what would rise in its place.